Yes, indeed. It's Let's Talk. This on-the-air forum getting to the bottom of issues that affect us all. And we welcome your input at all times during the show. The number to call, we'll tell you once, 415-663-8492 or 8317. And we really want to hear from you today on the topic of transplants.
Oh, you mean like...
medical transplants.
Oh.
Uh-huh. You were going to be smart, dear.
Oh, maybe a little bit.
Root causes.
Well, root causes, yeah. I mean, why? Why do we have medical conditions that require transplants in the first place? But the amazing thing about this homework that I did over the past 2 or 3 days, I had no idea that transplants were so common. I mean, really. I mean, limbs, entire arms, half an arm.
Oh, my gosh. No, I didn't know that.
Faces?
Yeah.
How long till they transplant a brain? I don't know.
Oh.
But,
they're talking about in sci-fi.
Oh, dear.
It's online.
Well, they can grow a brain, I guess.
Live forever. You just get a new body.
Yeah. That brings up all the questions about donors, people, because the whole transplant industry, surgical industry, depends on donors, whether they're willing or not. And there was a terrible article about China and how they're harvesting organs from prisoners like Falun Gong practitioners and political prisoners. And,
I read about that.
And performing, I don't know, thousands of illegal transplants every year.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, we have a caller already. Let's hear what you have to say. Hi, caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, this is Lynn Robinette.
Lynn Robinette, hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. And, we have another call? Oh, we have another call. The other caller, hang on just a moment. Let me talk to Lynn here for a while. Yes, Lynn, hi.
Hi. Well, I'm calling partly because we're in the midst of looking for a donor for bone marrow transplant for a friend of my son's. He's 15 and has a rare form of leukemia that hasn't responded to any treatment. They tried traditional treatment, then they tried some experimental treatment, and at this point, the only available option that they can think of is a bone marrow transplant. And it's, as I've learned, is like finding a needle in a haystack. There's
to find a match?
Yeah, to find a match, to find the perfect match. And I think his mom might be calling in later, so she can explain a little more about what they've gone through and what she knows more of the technical about it. And
well, tell us more about this. He's 15 years old, as I understand.
He's 15 years old. Yep. He and my son have known each other since preschool. They went to preschool and elementary school and middle school together. And he lives in San Rafael. He played football at Marin Catholic this last fall, and in January he wasn't feeling well. He actually spent New Year's Eve at our house. But in January he wasn't feeling well, and he never returned to school after Christmas break. And they did a lot of testing, and after a few weeks they diagnosed him with leukemia. And it's not common in teenagers. It's really common in young children. So it was surprising to everyone. And he, immediately they planned the normal treatments for him, and those, he did the chemotherapy and the routine, and it just didn't work. His body didn't respond. It couldn't kill off the leukemia cells. So they tried another therapy that they have had success with, but they've only been doing it. The first patient they ever tried it on has only 3 years of clean cells from leukemia. So it's a new therapy. And they were hopeful that would work, but it it killed off all the leukemia cells, but the cells that they infused his body with have since died, so they can no longer do that, and it's not a treatment that, I think partly it's not covered by, they don't want to keep paying for it, insurance.
Sure.
And then also, I'm not sure if it will continue. That would be a lifelong process of trying to reinvigorate the body that way, and I don't think that's feasible. So
how can we help here today?
Well, we're trying to, really, so a bunch of us moms who have known Daniel for a long time said, what can we do to help Catherine, his mother, and Daniel? And really, we wanted to get the word out about asking people to get registered with the bone marrow transplant registry or donor registry. And it's not an invasive test, and my husband and I were actually registered probably 13 years ago. It's a swab in the mouth, and they have you in their list. And so Daniel, when they realized they needed to go the route of a bone marrow transplant, they immediately checked his blood or bone marrow to see if there was anyone on that national list that fit what he needed, and there wasn't.
Wow.
So we are just trying to get as many people registered, and as I say, if we may not be able to save Daniel's life, but we could save someone else's life in the future, just by having people register and get into the national database. So
maybe we could talk for a second about why people would be afraid to register. I could think of, some reasons. I think people don't want their DNA out there. I don't know. Or what about the bone marrow transplant itself?
It's actually, so there are two ways that they do it. One, in 25% of the cases, it is a surgical procedure that they draw something out of the pelvis. And I'm not hugely well versed in this, and that's usually done with the young children. So it's often a family member of the child, but it would take a day or two out of someone's life and to do that. The more common way they do it is they do a draw of bone marrow from, I think it's the base of the spine. So I don't know whether they put someone under or not, but they definitely, it's an outpatient treatment. They basically say they need 2.5 to 3 hours of time dedicated during that day to it. And it's not something that would take them out of work for weeks at all, or probably even days. They'll be sore, but that's the extent.
There is some soreness, apparently.
Yes.
I think they general anesthesia while they're doing it, while they're harvesting.
I think so, yeah.
And so it's painless at that point. There might be some soreness in the area for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, but hey, if you can save a life, good heavens! And reading through all the information that I've found online, the testimonials from donors are glowing, and even the ones who did have some pain afterwards, and some of them lasted longer than others, But they said, of course, I would do it again, because it gave me the greatest feeling ever to help someone.
Yeah.
So.
Can you remind us again how we can get on that list?
There is, it's www.dkms.org, I believe. Let me...
DKMS.org. And if you want to go to the actual Daniel Rose's page, which is on the DKMS site, we have a tiny URL for it because it got to be very long. So it's tinyurl.com/donor for Daniel. And you can get right to the
Is it the number
page.
4 or the word 4?
For FOR.
Okay.
Yeah, the word for donor for Daniel. In fact, if you Google donor for Daniel, it would probably come up.
All right.
Yeah, well, and what's his prognosis? I mean, he's on the way.
Yeah, it's tricky. So his mother is a 50% match, and so right now he's leukemia-free. He's healthy. The concern is that the leukemia will come back. And so they want to do the bone marrow transplant before it returns.
As soon as possible.
So, what's that?
As soon as possible.
Yes, as soon as possible. So we're really looking for people to donate or to register within the next 2 weeks because they want to do it at the beginning of August.
Oh, wow.
By mid-August, they will have, if they do not find a better donor, they will ask, I mean, his mother obviously has already offered, so she will be his donor. And there's a risk with, she's a 50% match, so 50% of her bone marrow does not match his and could turn on him. So,
oh boy, that's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. But she's a mother. She'll do whatever, even if that's the possibility. What's the other side is doing nothing and no chance of recovery. So,
we exhort everyone listening to give some really serious thought. In fact, just go to the webpage tinyurl.com/donor for Daniel and give some serious thought to at least registering. Even if you're not a match for Daniel, you might be a match for somebody else down the line. Unfortunately, I think for the West Marin population, they don't
criteria that
they don't really want people over the age of 60.
Oh,
yeah. Their web, I think it's actually 18 to 55 is what they're shooting for.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know the reasons for that. I think it's just our bone marrow gets weaker. I don't know.
Yeah.
Our whole bodies get weaker. 53. So.
But so if there are any young people listening, Charles, I know you're out there.
Yeah.
Sign up.
We will be having a couple events. I know Elizabeth Hollis from the Point Reyes Farmers Market offered to let us put a booth out.
Oh, wonderful.
With testing kits, so it wouldn't even have to be through.
Oh, really?
We would be there, yeah.
Wow.
I haven't talked to her. Charles, of course, was setting this up. But we were hoping to do it on July 6th at the Farmers Market in Point Reyes.
That's a great idea.
It would be possible that you see us out there with the table and tester kits, and so anyone who meets the criteria, we would have everything we need to give everyone the information they need and register people right there, and then we would send them back, so it wouldn't even be a matter of waiting for things to get mailed to you and then for you to mail it back, but that we would do it.
That's
great.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, and the San Rafael Pacifics are actually going to host a game in honor of Daniel, and we're going to again set up a testing booth outside the stadium for everyone coming into the game. They're going to mention it over their loudspeaker. He's going to get to throw out the first pitch, and it's just really kind of Gabe Suarez. He's the owner to do that, to offer to do that, and I'm hoping that some of the players will get. They're young and healthy and great resource, I hope.
And where is that? That's the San Rafael Pacifics. They play in Albert Park in San Rafael.
That's such a great idea. You guys are doing some really good outreach.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you're hearing the other line. Can I bring on the other person on the other line? We'll see who it is. Hi, caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please? Oh. Sure. Whoever it was hung up. I'm sorry to keep you on so long, but do call back, please. So this is the cause that we're fighting for today.
The line that's open currently is 415-663-8492. And you're listening to Paul Raffel, Stephen Hurwitz.
Hello there.
Oh, yes,
and myself, Shelley Rugg on Let's Talk. And we're talking about human organ transplants, etc.
Bone marrow transplants, and the amazing advances made in transplantation these days. Wow.
From our cousins, the porcine.
Just incredible. And Daniel Rose, a 15-year-old from San Rafael, has been diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which requires a bone marrow transplant quite urgently because the other treatments are not working. And it's hard to find a donor amongst all the millions of donors that are out there that will actually match. So.
Somehow I read 1 in 300, but that might be too low, but that's what I read.
Well, Lynn, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we'll keep plugging away at this.
Keep us posted, will you?
Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks
and
very
I
much.
I believe Catherine will be calling in, his mom, so
great.
At some point. All right.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, give us a call, 415-663-8492 or 8317. They're both open. And we'd like to hear experiences. If you've ever had a transplant done, there must be a bunch of people out there who have. And or if you're a donor, if you're listed on a donor site for anything, including blood. Last time I tried to become a blood donor was many years ago, and they wouldn't take me because I'd had hepatitis A at one point. And now it seems like hepatitis A is not a problem, only B and C. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, this is Catherine Rose, Daniel Rose's mother.
Oh, hi.
Welcome.
We were just talking to Lynn on the...
excellent.
Well, we're so sorry about Daniel and that he's having to go through this, but we're certainly going to put out the word that people need to sign up to become prospective donors.
Thank you so much for the outreach and the help.
So he's quite critical, and if he doesn't, what is the timeline on being able to get a bone marrow transplant that will take effect?
That's a great question, and it's a little hard to answer. Daniel has a rare form of ALL, which is resistant to chemotherapy. And the implication of that is if the leukemia returns, it's very difficult to achieve remission again. And he's currently in remission, a very hard-fought place to be right now, that we reached through another experimental clinical therapy called CAR T-cell that actually worked for him, but the CAR T-cells died, so they achieved remission, but they're not still with him to protect him. So we have this window of opportunity where he's in remission, but it won't stay, and he's healthy, but that won't stay. So we're trying to quickly get him into a bone marrow transplant and give him a chance for a new start. It will likely happen in August. I am his default. It's definitely not as positive an outcome if the parent half donor is the root versus a more closely matched unrelated donor.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it's hard to imagine how that works.
I know. I wish I understood more of it. I mean, I have so many questions, but why would that be? And I research and try to understand, and I think in the absence of a medical degree in oncology, some of it's hard to follow. But, I think, one way to think about it is ancestry really influences it. So my son is a combination of his father and my ancestry. And, perhaps it's certain gene lines that come from his father's side that are more pronounced, that make me less of a match. He is half me and half his father.
Right.
And maybe someone else out there who's a similar mix to Daniel, which, by the way, we are of European ancestry, Northern, Central, and Eastern.
So if you're listening and you fall into that category, get yourself registered at the farmers market this weekend.
Absolutely.
Yes, or go to tinyurl.com/donor for Daniel. That will take you to Daniel's page on the dkms.org site, which is where you can register to become a donor. They'll send you a swab kit, and you'll be in the registry and be a prospective donor to save someone's life. Perhaps
the most powerful thing that I've learned through our leukemia journey is that bone marrow transplants are done when there really is no other route.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a match, you could be an incredibly unique person in the world, really. These donor registries are global.
Oh, wow.
That provides a life for that leukemia patient. So imagine the power of that.
Yeah.
You are that person's lifeline.
And they're searching all the donor banks.
They are.
Around the world, and they can't find someone with a match yet.
We have I just posted a Facebook, reposted a Facebook story of a woman who donated to unrelated boy in India 5 years ago. She's of Indian heritage. She lives here in the United States. And her donation was flown to India for him 5 years ago. He's now reaching his 16th birthday. And it's just a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And so, yes, absolutely, it can be someone living across the world.
And, so moving, so
important.
Yeah, it's such a moving thing to know that you were, that you did something that made it possible for someone to keep living and continue to enjoy their life.
Right. And unlike blood donation, it isn't common that someone can provide this life-saving component. And unlike an organ donation, bone marrow replenishes itself. So there's so little downside for the donors, and it's a lifeline for the recipient.
Yeah.
And bone marrow, because that is where blood is. Well, what am I saying? Blood cells are manufactured in your bones.
Right.
So it's those stem cells that they're looking for that will grow into red and white blood cells, I guess. Is that true?
Yes, and platelets.
Yeah, and platelets. Yeah. And you say there you can do it with a blood draw rather than from the pelvis, or is that?
There actually are two different techniques. There is the original technique, which is bone marrow is removed from the back of the pelvis. And there is an additional new technique called peripheral stem cell extraction, and that actually is done through transfusing your blood out of your body into a machine that removes the stem cells, and then it comes back in to your body. So if you think on each arm you have an IV, blood is coming out, going through a machine, and then coming back the other side. So it doesn't require anesthetic. It's not a surgical procedure. Done outpatient, done in an afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's easy, and all you have to do is sign up for the.
Yeah, it's easy for you to say.
Donor bank.
I just really have a hard time with needles myself. I'm a little bit wimpy that way. And so, I think I would need to get past that and really realize how completely just more than myself that this is, that sharing this way and over, dealing with my own fears because it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are gifts for the givers, too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
And
another thing I've learned through our leukemia journey is it's actually cancer is referred to as the emperor of all maladies, and leukemia is the grand emperor. As the fight against cancer has been going on, you can go back millennia, and surgical techniques were used to remove cancerous growths. Radiation became an alternative in the last century. And then beyond that, chemotherapy was really discovered in the 1950s. And it gave the opportunity for, if radiation couldn't kill a tumor and if surgical couldn't extract a tumor, what could you do for these systemic cancers? You can't chase it to one corner of the body. And that's where chemotherapy became this lifesaver for leukemia patients.
I think it was very crude too in the beginning.
He's in the last corner of leukemia patients where there's such a genetic breakdown in his stem cells that even that can't help him. So at that point, you've got this bone marrow donation as something of a last and final resort.
Yeah.
But it's truly the children who experience this. There is no other path for them, and it's heartbreaking and incredibly important.
Yeah, I'm relating to you as a mom. I'm thinking about you and what kind of support you have in dealing with this.
I have so many amazing people in my life. From my family, I'm one of 7 children. I've had several siblings come out to spend time with us and help take care of us. I have a fiance who's incredible and along my side. I have this incredible community of friends and neighbors who have really come out when I was ready to start a Facebook post and an outreach to family members. They said, "Oh no, we have to do a bone marrow drive and shake the bushes and see what we can shake loose." And they've been absolutely amazing. So people are holding me up.
That's so great.
Holding me together.
How many people are out there looking for a donor just like you are? Imagine there's a big population.
I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for that. I can tell you that my son likes to quote this statistic. In his particular disorder, it's 0.5% of the leukemia patients in the world, and it's less than 1,000 people that have this disorder. Now that's probably the opposite of the point we're trying to make here. There's thousands and thousands of people, I believe, who need bone marrow donations. The ones who are in his particularly rare group are quite few.
Wow.
Only takes one.
Only takes one. That's it.
One.
And who knows? It could be you, listener. It could be you. Go to tinyurl.com/donor4Daniel. And, really give some thought to becoming a prospective donor. It's a pretty simple process, and it could be saving a life.
Yeah, and I love that there's going to be a table set up at the opening of the farmers market this Saturday, and that it's so easy to get registered, and just a swab of the cheek, and there you are. So,
and then that information remains in the registry indefinitely. So,
wow,
that can go to work for the patients in the medical community. And, it is simple on the part of the person registering, and then you are there as a potential donor.
Yeah, and that you could, potentially save someone's life on the other side of the world. That's amazing. Yeah.
Well, Catherine, we're very sorry about Daniel's trials that he's going through, but we are also pretty hopeful that there is going to be someone out there who is going to sign up
Maybe it's your next door neighbor.
Be the perfect
Maybe
match.
it's your next door neighbor. Maybe it's who knows where they're going to come from.
And we're grateful for this opportunity to raise awareness generally, because if you're not a match for Daniel, you could be a match for someone else, and if you are a match, you can save someone's life.
Yeah, and
that's an amazing thing.
I didn't really know how it worked myself. I have the donor dot on my license, my driver's license, but that kicks in after I pass, and it has nothing to do with being registered as a bone marrow donor. So that's good to become aware of.
Right. Okay, thank you so much for letting me.
Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you to everyone who goes out and gets tested.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck with it all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Definitely new information,
And this is KWMR. 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, 92.3 in San Geronimo Valley, and streaming live on KWMR.org. And we have another caller on the line, but let me just thank a couple of sponsors, a couple of underwriters here. KWMR is supported by our listener members and by Marin Agricultural Land Trust, a member-supported non-profit organization working to preserve Marin County farmland. On the web at malt.org. That's MALT.org. And KWMR has a brand new mobile app for both iOS and Android platforms. It's a great way to listen to KWMR on the go. Search for the KWMR app in your app store or find the links to the app on kwmr.org/apps and listen away. Thank you to all our underwriters. And caller, you are on the air. What's your name, please? Yellow. Hello. Caller, you're on the air.
Let's try line 1.
Call back. Hi, caller, you are on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, my name is Charles.
Oh.
Hey there, Charles.
Charles who?
Wouldn't you like to know? I just want to say really quickly, thank you guys for doing a show on this topic. The table set up for people to get these kits to be tested and to add their genetic information to this database is going to be July 6th, Saturday, July 6th. So not this Saturday.
Not this weekend.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up.
Good.
And thank you guys. It's really hard, obviously, to follow, your first two callers. But I will say, Lynn, the woman who called in first is my neighbor here in Marshall.
Really?
And she has a letter with, this appeal in this week's Point Reyes Light. And so you can, the website, sort of the link and all that is in the letter as well. So any Point Reyes Light readers will be able to read her letter and get that information there. I would say, also thank you to Elizabeth Hollis. She's actually at Malt now. She's no longer with Point Reyes Farmers Market, but she, another Marshall neighbor, was the one that gave me that information about being able to set up a table. And, she said, and I think I know it's true, that, an effort like this or a cause like this would be something that Chris Giacomini and the folks there at Toby's would definitely be, in support of.
Yeah.
It's great. And I should say, I don't want to sound glib, although that is, I've been told, a problem that I have. This came about a little bit because, as I said, Lynn Robinette is my neighbor right here in Marshall, California, and I invited her to a party. And
there you go.
You have to come to Abraham's on Saturday. And, she was out at going to the music at the William Tell with her 15-year-old son. I don't know how she got that information about music at the William Tell, but, these things get around. she said, well, I can't come on Saturday because I'm meeting with this group of mothers to deal with, what can we do in terms of organizing around, trying to help this young man who is, also her neighbor and then the son of her friend, as she pointed out. So because we're neighborly and because maybe me personally, I insist that people come out to parties. She did miss me and Abraham singing "Windy" by the Association. And I think she's probably going to be okay with having missed that.
We all are.
Well, I mean, I did, or I should say Abraham and I did follow it up with a rendition of "I Left My Heart in San Francisco," which I did my Tony Bennett impersonation.
Even better.
Abraham and the whole Giants organization for having me today is so beautiful.
That's how this all came about. Is that you were socializing, as we all should, with community. We should all be seeing each other regularly in some way.
Yeah, and just a couple of other quick facts. I mean, they are looking for people 18 to 55.
Yeah.
That is the donor range, and that is not really our target demographic here in West Marin, as you pointed out. But,
not in this studio.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of mothers and grandmothers in West Marin who have children and grandchildren, and who are very connected, with their families and their friends. So, this isn't something that you're directly able to participate in. I'm sure somebody who can. And, this is a story about mothers. Inviting Lynn and her son to a party, she having come out here because she got an invitation from another neighbor saying, hey, go listen to the music over here. And then Elizabeth Hollis, who I knew, okay, well, if you're going to do something at the farmer's market, here's another mother that I can ask, what can be done. I think it was really lovely just to be able to connect with these people and see what is possible, when we communicate and when we, are open about what we're trying to achieve. I mean, in this case, obviously a really difficult story.
Yeah.
But I continually impressed and really very happy about the way that we're able to work together and communicate here in West Marin. So
community.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. We have this fabulous little local paper. We have a local radio station, the farmers market, a lot of opportunities to get information and connect.
So, thank you so much again. Thank you, Shelley. And I will, let some other folks call in and tell their stories. You have the URL, the website link, that will be in the Point Raised Light. And that's tinyurl.com/donor for Daniel, DONORFORDANIEL. That's going to be available, like I say, in the paper. And then next Saturday, July 6th, at the Raised Market, people will be able to see that then. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Charles.
Good work.
Well done.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
There you are, the power of community connections.
So
415-663-8492. Are you registered as a donor of anything, any organs? Do you have the red dot on your driver's license?
I do.
Tell me, how do you get the red dot? I thought I definitely want to be a donor.
Well, it's when you renew your license, but you can probably do it online, I'm guessing.
It used to be that you actually had a little sticker that you put on, but now it's printed on there.
I may have it.
So you can look for that. I have a friend who donated a kidney. This was in the Long Beach art community, and he's got one less kidney, but he has still the same friend. Right?
That's nice.
But that, that procedure is, a major surgical procedure, and you're losing a little chunk of your body.
Sure.
I guess with the bone marrow, it can, have some pain afterwards, but you grow back that bone marrow.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no real loss.
So renewable resource.
Yeah.
As is like liver transplants. Amazing. The liver never stops growing. It's fantastic. When you can lose half your liver, give it to someone, and
grow it back like a starfish
liver,
or
apparently it never doesn't grow back to the same size, but it just keeps reforming. Amazing.
Wow.
Reminds me of that Monty Python routine.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Well, can we have your liver?
Oh dear. So do you have a red dot on your driver's license?
I got it.
I do.
You do?
I've got it.
I
yeah.
do. Oh, and you too, Paul? All right.
And
have it.
as I said, I always wanted. I used to be a blood donor, and I had to give it up when they told me that Hep A was a no-no. But apparently that is not the case anymore. So I'm going to start giving blood again. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please?
Good morning, everybody. It's MK.
MK.
Hey there, MK.
Hi, guys. My neighbor right next door, one of the two ladies that live there, donated one of her kidneys to a friend of hers because the friend, they were a match, and the friend was very, very ill, and everybody is fine now, and the friend has a house in Tuscany, so they all, for a thank you present, went to Tuscany for a full vacation.
Yeah, the person who receives the donation is just, you can't, it's like we're sharing this life.
Yes.
In a way.
It's very, I would do it, except nobody would want my innards at this point. I'm too old. but what I have done is signed up at the University of Washington here in Seattle to have my body sent over there for, it's called the donated cadaver, just sweet little thought, and for
research,
teaching purposes. So,
wow.
I have to die in Washington. Get over there as fast as I can after I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an option too, because I may not have many usable parts left, but
we hope you have a few.
Thanks.
At that time.
Yeah. Well, it's some of them work. My vocal cords seem to be hanging in there. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. It's wonderful. It's wonderful possibilities out there, especially for kids with needing stem cells and bone marrow transplants. It's absolutely phenomenal what they're doing.
It's incredible.
I guess they're transplanting faces.
They are. Just amazing.
Wow.
There was a.
Can you choose?
There was a.
Face you want?
It's in that case. It's usually a someone who's deceased. So it's kind of,
the luck of the draw.
But really good looking, Stephen, and say, "Okay, my turn." Not that you're not good looking, Stephen, because you are.
Aw.
And of course, rejection is always the problem.
Oh, the possibility.
Rejecting my looks?
Much less than it used to be. There's all sorts of advancements in that. You don't even hear about it. It's so routine. It's like, the bypass surgery and a lot of coronary procedures that are just run of the mill.
Yep.
Now.
Yeah.
Eyes, the whole thing. It's amazing.
And
get along.
Yeah. Well, we need more spare parts. That's the key, apparently.
Well, they're transplanting organs from animals, pigs' hearts, and
wow,
pigs' whole heart.
Not the heart,
but
the
they're not really doing
valves.
that anymore. My sister-in-law just she has a bad valve, and what they're choosing to do now, rather than using the pig valves, is to rebuild with your own whatever you have in your body. It seems to work better. There's less of a chance of rejection. I'm not quite sure where they get the parts to build a new valve in a heart, but.
Well, there's also developing technology in bioprinting. They're 3D printing organs. And they're mostly, at the moment, they're doing it for research purposes, so you don't have to test things on actual human beings. They can print human tissues from cells, from skin cells, from stem cells, and they 3D print them, and then they test drugs and other things on this tissue.
That's wild.
Yeah. So there's another thing coming up.
Well, it opens a big can of worms too. It's like designer babies and all this other stuff. I choose to have this and that and the other thing just so my kid will be better than your kid.
Oh yeah.
But if you don't go down that road, there really is nothing good that can come out of it.
It's always the ethics problem.
Yeah, and money.
Yeah. Thank you, MK.
Whole different question.
Hang in there, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. The number is 415-663-8492. Yes, there's a company actually called Organovo in San Diego that bioprints and markets human tissues as a means of accelerating preclinical drug testing. How about that?
Wow.
And of course they're looking at starting to print from cells. Printing things like livers, and they haven't been able to figure out how to get all the tubing right yet. But incredible.
Wow,
and local author and investigative journalist Mark Dowie actually wrote a book about organ transplanting back in 1988, saying how it was going to become an integral part of medical practice, and that it has. I was just astounded by when I was looking up information on this. Just incredible what they're doing. Wow. It's like almost anything can be transplanted now if you can find the donor.
Right. And, I don't know how much of human trafficking could be part of this whole picture.
Yeah, no doubt.
Organ harvest. Well, it's illegal to pay people for organ donorship in most countries, a lot of countries anyway, because of that very thing. The poor people who need money, as people do here with, they sell their blood or semen or whatever, donating kidneys and getting paid for it. It's not allowed most places. In China, of course, it's a different matter. I've always thought that the private prison business was actually gearing up for organ harvesting.
Oh, dear.
Maybe this is
dark mind.
Maybe this is inappropriate for this.
There's dark things happening in this world, so.
Maybe this is inappropriate for this conversation, given the fact that our sensitivities. But I've often wondered, with the expense of modern techno, is everybody? If you can do it, are we all entitled to it? You're talking about the expense of huge amounts of healthcare dollars that actually could be spread around. More people could stay healthy or be treated for minor problems, and yet we're focusing, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars on people who. What is it? 80% of our healthcare. 80% of our healthcare dollar is spent in the last 5 years of our lives.
Right.
What?
We're sucking. Old people are sucking up all the healthcare dollars.
Of course. That's what Medicare is for.
Seriously.
No, it's true. Of course.
Okay.
Except in cases like tragic cases like Daniel's, where they.
Well, it's personal, and then you say, yeah.
Anyway, Medicare Part A. Part B covers doctor services for certain organ transplants, and Medicare Part A covers heart, lung, kidney, pancreas, intestine, and liver. There you go. Good old Medicare. Medicare for all. There you go. And yes, of course, ridiculously expensive here, and but
medical tourism, they do have that.
Oh yes, I haven't done it myself, but I've escorted someone to do medical tourism in other countries because cheaper and sometimes a lot better.
Or they might provide procedures that we don't, or things like that.
Well, there was, it was a case of heart stuff that needed to be done, and we went to the guys who invented the procedure in France. That was great. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please?
And we went to the guys who invented the procedure.
Turn off the radio. Thank you.
Yeah,
Fair enough. I mean, for once, I'm actually not going to hear the sound of my own voice to share it with you. Just to say, if you join that registry, it's not an obligation to donate. It just means that the possibility exists. So to just take that simple step is again not obliging you to actually be part of a bone marrow transplant. I should say, Sebastian, one of our other neighbors, has already signed up.
Excellent.
And I had a certain ambivalence about it, but a friend convinced me to do it as well. So
good.
I'm going to participate in it. I think this would be a great thing for West Marin, remembering that community is a verb, not a noun, or branding opportunity.
So let's talk about the ambivalence.
Well, I think maybe just how foreign it all feels or felt to me. I'd not really. I mean, I had a cousin who died of leukemia when he was 20 or 21, and it's not as though that the disease is so foreign, but I think a lot of people feel sort of helpless or mystified when it comes to these kinds of procedures, and I would certainly be one of them. On the other hand, like I say, a cheek swab. You don't have to, donate your bone marrow if you don't want to. It's one of these things that, weighed against my reticence or confusion seems just so simple. And, as, the callers pointed out, the upside, so extraordinary. So,
right.
Anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Charles.
Just a final reminder, July 6th, Saturday, at the farmers market, those kits will be available. And that URL is in the Point Raised Light. You can read the letter on page 5. So go out and buy a copy of the Point Raised Light. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Charles.
I did one of those cheek swabs for 23andMe to find relatives, etc. And it seems like it might be a great source of finding a match.
Whether they like it or not?
Well, just, you could find one. This could be a distant relative, somebody that might share the...
Yeah, somebody you never knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, maybe if it doesn't exist, that could be like a side service that they could provide. If you send in your swab, you give permission to be added to the registry.
Oh,
check
well,
that out, will you?
That may be part of it. I would encourage everyone to become part of any organ registry you can find, because, especially with organ donorship where they're taken after you're deceased. That is a service to humanity.
And interesting, some people have reservations about that, being buried with their corporeal existence intact.
Well, yeah, because they're going to rise again. Yeah. So let's recap. It's we're really doing a donor drive. What are we talking about? What's it called?
Bone marrow.
Bone marrow donor drive for Daniel Rose, a 15-year-old of San Rafael who's been diagnosed with a horrible kind of leukemia, who needs a bone marrow transplant very soon.
And as Charles pointed out, you can get on the registry and you can decide later if you are up to it.
If you happen to be a match.
But to just be on the registry can make such a difference.
Right.
A good friend.
tinyurl.com/donor for Daniel. And that'll take you to the registration site. You'll have more information about Daniel and his terrible situation. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to all our listeners. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Stephen.
And
Thanks
you too,
to
Paul.
our callers, and good luck to the Rose family.